to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I want to welcome everybody here today. We've got a few people. Can I get a motion to approve our agenda?
Approve. Motion?
Second?
Second.
Second by Bruce.
Amended one, right?
The amended agenda, yeah.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the minutes from 1:23 and 1:26.
There are two sets from 123 and then 126.
We approved the minutes of January 23rd, two sets, and one for the 26th.
I have a first, can I get a second? Second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Dean, would you like to come up and start? We have the Veterans Quarterly Report.
First, you go on my papers. That's taken.
Okay.
You get one of
Been
these?
working pretty
Yeah,
hard.
she can have them.
Got lots of sheets
Hey,
this time.
make sure you guys
Yeah.
have.
Working overtime.
For the second quarter, which is October, November, December, for the Veterans Affairs Office, our budget came over a little high. We had a few numerous requests for November, December, which put us over. Our budget was $18,399. Our expenditures were $19,614. So we had $1,200 over budget. The annual budget, of course, is $73,596. Year-to-date budget is $36,000, and the expenditures year-to-date is $37,142. So we're right on budget, a few dollars over, no concern there. If you look at the second paragraph, what I do, I just kind of go over the specifics a little bit of where we give money out to, for veterans. Mid-America, our budget was $4,200 for the quarter. The second quarter budget was $1,050, and we spent around $1,869. The good news on Mid-America, there are at least five veteran families that are using the heating assistance that Upper Des Moines offers. So for the next 3 months, that the Mid-America bills will be considerably less, if not to zero, because everybody will be using that. So that has been a big benefit for us. Utilities, the budget for the year is $3,000. Second quarter budget $750. We're over there $1,035. Rent $20,000 for the year. That's the budget $5,000 for the quarter. Again, we're over there for the second quarter at $67.55. And the food vouchers, the same thing there. Our quarter budget was $750, and we're $922. We had a couple additional veterans for the quarter that came in needing assistance. I don't know if it was a holiday thing, but So right now, we're helping those veterans along with the other ones we have. So we think we had to increase our numbers in the second quarter, so. What I see for February, it's gone down a little bit again, so.
That's good.
It kind of balances itself out. The veterans coming in asking for claims right now, we're averaging around 27. The most frequent claims are hearing loss and tinnitus, and those getting into healthcare system and then education. There's two ways you can get in the healthcare system to the VA, and that's just making an application out. And if you're, through the Veterans Administrations, everything is income, it's really income sensitive. So just because you're a veteran, that doesn't mean you get all the benefits in the healthcare system. If you make more than $40,000 a year, you and your spouse, they consider that enough money, so then even if you're a veteran, you don't get into the healthcare system. So a lot of veterans there's another route to get into the healthcare system, and that's if you can prove that you have a service-connected injury. Even if the injury happened 40 years ago, you can still put a claim in. And with that claim, you can go ahead and put the claim in and go down for physicals, and they'll either approve you or not. Once you've been approved, then you're automatically in the healthcare system, and you can use all the benefits. Right now, with the veterans that do go down, they call them the C&P exam, compensation and pension exams, and there's around 95% of those exams are done at the VA in Des Moines. The other 5% are contracted out in Carroll, Sac City, in Boone. So they've done the contracting right now to help speed up that process. A year ago, the time it took from the time a veteran would submit a claim, it may take him a year before he would be able to go in and do an exam. And they've improved that now to, if a veteran puts in a claim for a hearing loss, usually it's within 90 to 120 days. So they've come a long way there. The other thing is, a couple weeks ago, I took a veteran to Des Moines, to the Federal Building, to the American Legion, and he had submitted an appeal. An appeal is, his claim was denied at some point. So once the claim is denied, the veteran has the right to put an appeal in. His appeal sat at the courts for 5 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
so his just came up, and so we went down there. I went with him and sat in front of a judge who was on a TV screen from Washington, D.C. And in 10 minutes, his hearing was 10 minutes, and that's all. So now it takes another 120 days for the judge to make the ruling whether he gets it or not. And I've been told there's 400,000 appeals waiting to be listened to by the courts. So, and that number doesn't seem to go down. Now they're trying to come up with a plan to improve that, but nothing has been set in stone yet of how they're going to do that.
So in those 5 years that he's waiting, his benefits don't change?
His benefits don't change, but if he gets approved, then he might get one.
Retroactive.
I know, but they might be struggling trying to...
He could be struggling, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And sometimes they will, like I had written a letter to Joni Ernst's office, and sometimes they will look at them if the veteran is financially strapped, they will do their best to move them up.
Try to move them.
But there's no guarantee that that will happen either.
Does that cover family, spouses too, rather than just a veteran himself? It involves more than just a veteran, doesn't it? If a veteran passed off and his wife's have a need, do they get covered?
The appeals?
Yeah.
In that case, yes. If the veteran has passed away and there's an appeal, yes. Right now, President Trump has an acting secretary of the Veterans Affairs, Robert Snyder. Because I hadn't heard anything about the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and so I looked it up, and there is none right now. There's an acting guy, his name is Robert Snyder, and Trump has picked David Shulkin, who is a doctor, but he's not a veteran. So that's one of his picks right now. He's had about 3 or 4 picks, but they've all declined it. So I don't know when they're going to make that announcement, whether they're going to pick him and approve him. Nothing has been said, so everything is kind of stagnant right now with the VA until they get that person in place. Honor flights, there's 2 flights coming up this year, one in May 6th, and one in September 16th. Right now, there's roughly 400 veterans on the list to go. So they take about 150 to 160 veterans per flight. So with 400 veterans, there'll probably be another flight next week.
What dates were those?
May 6th and September 16th. And so far to date, you know, with the Brushy Creek, they've had 13 flights, which is, they've taken 1,750 veterans over 43 counties.
Humboldt County's always gotten all theirs on, haven't they? They
Yeah.
wanted to go
Yeah.
because of the fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah, Humboldt County is a very generous county in terms of fundraising for the honor flight. Probably the leading county right now. Is what I've been told.
These people applying for benefits, are they mostly Vietnam, World War II, any young people coming back who need benefits?
Yes, there have been Afghanistan, Iraqi vets have come to my office looking for benefits. Some Vietnam vets yet, obviously, some even Korean vets. I've done more advertising this year, just promoting the office. And even if you get 2 or 3 veterans, you know, you pay $400 for the advertising, but if you get 2 or 3 veterans that come in who don't know about the VA, and I had one, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he's got diabetes too, and that's an Agent Orange related disease. Well, he came in and we've assigned him up, and now he's going through all his exams. But because of that, he'll definitely end up with a compensation. So if you get 1 or 2 vets that come in, it makes that $400 worthwhile.
Yeah, it does.
And that's all I have. You guys got any questions?
Thank you, Dean.
Sure.
Make a motion to accept his quarterly report.
This afternoon.
Motion by Bruce, can I get a second?
Please go back.
And a second by Dave. We usually
yeah.
give them back to you, yeah. Any more discussion on this?
You want both these back, Dean? You can sure, yeah, looks good to me.
Get a few
All in-
bids, Dave?
All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries.
Well, hopefully when they get the numbers out for those 2 honor flights, because there's always church groups and whatnot, they're looking for meals to provide so they can do the
Yeah.
funding. So if you hear anything,
Oh, yeah, we will.
get that word out
Yeah.
so we're ahead of the ball
Yep.
for May 6th. appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think Hy-Vee and Fairway both is gonna have a meal before the flight.
That's what, then I haven't heard.
I think that's what
Yeah.
Darryl told me.
Usually
That's what I heard, or that's what I was told too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And they have to sign it also.
Yeah. I can fill in the dates for you.
Cory?
Katie.
Katie?
I'm filling in for Cory.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and come up here.
Yep.
Yes.
You got room for two.
Now, the rules are the first ladies have to do the solos, so you want to take
Yeah.
mine?
Shelley likes it, so.
Well, I'll wait to sing till after I'm done presenting, because then you might not want to hear me talk. It's just a packet of information, and I'm sorry, I just did one for the supervisors. My name is Katie Talbot with Community and Family Resources. Work in the Substance Abuse Prevention Department. We serve 6 counties throughout this region. We do substance abuse prevention stuff, and talking in particularly Humboldt County. Cory, who's normally here, would be here, she's teaching right now. She's done presentations at the Humboldt Rotary Club, alcohol and drug trend presentations given to 7th and 8th graders, as well as high school level students every quarter in health class at the Humboldt Middle School and High School. We will be doing, I'll be doing the Humboldt County Conservation and Secondary Road Workers, a drug trend presentation, just to be what you see out in the public, or just the idea of drug trends that are coming. We also offer a drug-free workplace training, and that will be given to county employees in February, the dates to be announced, and drug trends presentations will be offered to the public at Faith United Methodist Church on February 22nd. Cory right now, and she's actually there right now, is teaching Too Good for Drugs, and that's a evidence-based curriculum, goes into the schools and gives kids the critical thinking skills to make good and bad choices, hopefully good choices, but to be able to decide which ones.
Are you able to get into all the schools in the 6 county area? Some of them will let you in?
No.
Some will let you in.
No,
Yes.
they don't, a lot of the schools feel like they already cover what they need to cover for substances in like science and health, and they feel like they're overwhelmed with what's required of them already.
We also provide gambling services prevention, and we'll do presentations anywhere with those, and we go into the treatment facility that's here in Humboldt and do presentations as well. New program is prescription, Up and Away, it's prescription drug awareness, and that's been presented at several events in the county. One of the things that we're doing in a different county, starting out in Hamilton County and then going to Wright County and eventually coming over here, is working with hospitals, law enforcement, so there's a safe way for the public to dispose of medication. What we're seeing in Hamilton County, maybe more break-ins.
Oh, sure.
After they've read somebody has passed away, and they go in and look for prescription drugs. So that's how Hamilton County started, and now we'll be working that in Wright County and eventually coming this way. It's also, children get a hold of prescription drugs at home, and we're finding as well as adolescents that begin abusing prescription drugs may do so for due to sports injuries, and then it becomes an issue after that. Other services in Humboldt is Too Good for Drugs programming for any kindergarten to high school levels, one-time presentation to any groups, juvenile drug education classes for 13 and up, and those would be if somebody's charged with a minor in possession of alcohol, any marijuana charges. Is it doing anything with the theft?
No.
Nope, okay. We do gambling presentations to adults, the elderly as well as youth, and continuing on the drug-free workplace presentations. And I just kind of stuck in here, just drug trend summaries that's going on in Iowa. I'm sure you've heard on the news about heroin and opiate epidemic, and we're seeing some of that on the eastern side of Iowa, so our goal is to be all prepared that it doesn't make as much of an impact here in the north central area.
You got data on how we stand countywide for drug use and alcohol use and those kind of things? How do we rate countywide?
I pulled some of the data from the Iowa Youth Survey.
Are we good or bad?
Actually, as far as alcohol goes, pretty good. This is the same data that we would have talked about last year when I came.
Okay.
I'll just kind of go through some of that real quick. They did do the Iowa Youth Survey for 6th, 8th, and 11th grade this fall. And so that data, it takes them until the spring, and then they'll announce that. And so, you know, we'll be watching the marijuana data very closely because, well, nationwide, it's become a large issue. Okay, so, and so I kind of focused on some of that and alcohol primarily when I pulled these numbers. We know that when youth initiate drug use at a very young age, they're more likely to become dependent as an adult. So I compared the 6th grade in Humboldt, so these would be kids in 6th grade last fall. They reported that they first tried marijuana at 8 or younger, 1% of the 6th grade population. I know.
8th grade or eighth year?
6th graders last year, when they answered
8 years
that
old.
question.
8 years old.
They said that they tried it, 1% of them tried it at 8 years old. And compared to the state was at 0%. And these are all online, you can look up how they ask, like, how many vegetables did you eat, you know, in the last 30 days. They do all sorts of health-related questions, but these, of course, are the ones that interest us. So last year's 8th graders, Humboldt 8th graders reported that 2% of them tried marijuana at 8 or younger, and then the state was 0. And then the 11th graders last year reported, must have been the same for that, a 1%. It looks like when I look at the charts that 11 and 12 years old is the largest age group for initiation for marijuana. But, you know, they see it on TV, they see it online.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very normalized. There's edibles, the clothing they wear, and sadly, sometimes their parents don't realize that that's what those things are meaning, you know, I mean, when they have different clothes and things like that. So I think we'll probably see increases because most places are. And just because marijuana may become decriminalized, it doesn't mean that workplace and schools still won't have policies about it. But
Yeah.
Well, the confusing part is when the government says in a couple states it's okay to do it there versus
yeah.
across the state line, it isn't.
Yeah.
One thing that's different is the THC levels are significantly higher than they were. In 1971, THC level for an average joint was 1%, and now we could have anywhere from 18 to 30% pure THC in just one joint. But as the kids are ingenious and they learn to get around certain things, they've learned to cook down the THC, and so they'll have THC labs versus they used to have meth labs. Now they'll have THC labs where they can make it into substance that's called dab, butter, earwax, and it looks like earwax, a shatter that looks like a peanut brittle, that can be up to 90 to 95% pure THC. And what is dangerous with that is the levels are so high, it stays in the system so long, and besides health issues, it can cause severe psychotic breaks, mental health issues as well.
So then our emergency department, and I haven't talked to anyone from home, so I don't know what they're seeing, but they get people in and they think that it's mental health issues, and really it's been induced by the marijuana use.
And we do know since 2012, since I believe that was when Colorado passed it for recreational, I'm not even sure on the date, but Iowa itself has quadrupled the amount of ER, marijuana being the contributing or major reason why people are being seen in the ER. It's quadrupled the number of people that are being seen. With the edibles as well that you touched on, when we have a candy bar, generally we eat the whole candy bar, but the serving size would be like one little piece, and since it goes through the digestive system, it takes a while for it to go through the body. So since people aren't getting the effect they want, they start eating more of it, and then the concentrations are just crazy. I do know Wright County and Webster County have had experience with the excited delirium related to marijuana, and that's a psychotic break. So, unfortunately, hopefully we don't see it here, but unfortunately, be prepared to maybe that be an issue.
Okay, I'll keep going.
You're not full of good news.
No, sorry. You are pretty even as far as alcohol use with the state levels. That's the good news, right?
Yeah.
We talked about gambling. Gambling can affect, even our young people. A lot of people don't feel like it's a problem. But, when I looked at the Iowa Youth Survey, there's some questions about that. So these are students that reported they have ever gambled for dollars or possession. We're equal to the state, but 26% when you look at all grades combined, 6th, 8th, and 11th, say that they have gambled for money or possessions. So, 6th graders aren't very old.
Count the football pool too?
Yeah, and all the fantasy sports that are coming up, and
I got some information in your packet there for you.
we'll be highlighting that.
Is it all that one there for
On
you?
the back, it says 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Let's see. Suicide is always a factor with substance use and abuse. In the past 12 months, seriously thought about killing themselves. We're equal to the state in that. It's also 13%. And then I know I have some alcohol. Again, we see some kind of, with alcohol use, we see young ages using alcohol. I didn't write the numbers down, but some of them are still getting it from parents, so we have some more educating to do. Again, the younger they start, the more likely addiction is as they become adults. Driving a car after using any amount of alcohol or other drugs. Let's see. Students that reported doing it one time in Humboldt was 4%. The state reports at 2%, and this would be the all grade combined. Driving 2 times, 0% for Humboldt. The state was higher on that. And then 3 or more times, it was 3% for Humboldt and 2 for the state. And we just look at the state, what's going on all around when we kind of look at those numbers. Not that it's good that any of it's happening at the state level either, but it's nice to see what's happening locally compared to widely. Past 30-day alcohol, where did you get it? A friend over 21. We have all grades combined or averaged out saying 4% got it from a friend over 21 years old, and the state was 3%. And again, I think people don't realize what the implications for providing alcohol to a minor are. And we've tried to educate people about that. A lot of people feel like the social host law, where there's criminal charges if you provide it to a minor. There's a lot of concern, especially in the rural areas. Farmers are sometimes concerned, especially like over in Webster County, they talked about it, how, like, if their land is like a vacant building on property, they don't want the social host because they feel like they could be held liable. When you have to knowingly provide it to be held liable for it.
How many counties have enacted the social host law? We've talked about here, we've never done.
Yeah, I would have to go back and look, because that changes, it changes quite a bit year to year. It's a long process, it really is. I know in Webster County, they would like to see that happen. They were selected as a high-need county for underage and underage binge alcohol use. Still getting some resistance to passing that. But we can certainly look at it and bring it back. And send it and bring it back. Let's see. Ever using marijuana, 6th graders reported 2%. Again, last year's 6th graders. Versus the state rate of 1%. 8th grade, 8%, so we're higher than the state because they were at 5%. And then 11th grade, we're lower. We're significantly lower than the state. 15% and 22% for the state, so that's a nice decrease. But again, my concern is that 6th grade, 8th grade, that's very, very young. All grades, when you average it out, it would be 8%, 9% for the state. And then I just took this from our annual report, so last fiscal year, we did have, 3% of the people that we served came from Humboldt County for addiction treatment services. And overall, so not just Humboldt County, but a lot of people will ask us, what is the drug of choice? What are people being admitted to treatment for? Alcohol still remains high at 38%. That's the number one drug of choice, which completely makes sense. It's legal. Meth is still high for our area, 31%, and then marijuana is 24%. So, and that'll, again, be interesting to see what happens with that marijuana number in the next year. So, I was late in talking to Peggy, but Katie was already coming to do her kind of overview and report. We are requesting what we have for the past, I'm not sure how many years, I've been there for a lot of years, $7,200 to help support all of our prevention efforts throughout Humboldt County.
Does Bruce behave on the board when you have board meetings?
I think so. I sat by him once when I had to do a small presentation.
And that was good.
He was well behaved, yes, so.
I think unfortunately those numbers that you shared are probably one of the reasons why CFR is looking into building a new building and putting everything together because of the fact that they have, 3 different buildings around Fort Dodge and trying to keep everybody, the transportation and whatnot. So in hopes, in a campaign soon, they're gonna go out and start pushing for this new facility, which will help all 8 counties in treating some of the things that we have and be a big help for Humboldt County, so.
Yeah, we're excited. It will be a lot more efficient. I mean, it is very difficult when you have 3 different locations and
Yeah, we can see that.
not very efficient. You know, you have to have office staff at every single site.
A lot of windshield time.
Yes.
Well, for those that don't know, CFR has purchased the property behind the Tom Thumb area out there, so there's like a big grass field that we just keep driving by and looking at it and thinking someday that, you know, our facility's gonna be there, and it's hopefully take care of some of those numbers and get them dropped too. And I think the other side is we're also getting into the schools and helping, give them some actual numbers that, and nothing against the DARE program, but I think we are, stretched to the max for our sheriff's department doing that
It
too.
does, it creates a huge burden on them.
So,
And Corey has done more programming this year than we have in Humboldt in many, many years. Started working with the juvenile court officer again last year. There was a need, there was like a one-time class that needed to be held here because they had enough students, and we don't like to see students traveling all over. I know they don't believe they're inexperienced drivers, but, so we did come up and provide that, and then she's been doing, I think, fourth grade is what she's doing right now. But last year we did it at the middle school with Too Good for Drugs, and we do have Too Good for Drugs curriculum that's available all the way through the high school grades. So it's just convincing people that there's enough need that all of our kids get that kind of
Right.
education. So.
we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming up, and we'll take your request under consideration, and
Thank you.
Not that I don't want my packet, but I have several
You
in my
probably have a
truck.
lot. Yes, these are limited days, right?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we got a few minutes here until 9:15. Do we wanna set a date for our budget amendment?
Yep, I was looking at February 27th. It will be on a Monday, the last Monday in February. The reason for that being, we have to give at least 10 days' notice to get it in the paper. I've got to notify offices who are going to have it. They have to get their needs to me. I have to get the forms all put together. So, it's not something you can do like next week. We have to.
What's this for exactly?
When we set our budget in March, you always have the opportunity when you get into the next fiscal year to change your budget by amending it. And so we've maybe gotten some revenues in that we didn't know we were gonna get, and we've had some expenses that we didn't know we were gonna have. So you amend your budget, and we've never had to levy anything extra. We've always been able to pull from cash balance and use that up.
We have 3 drainages on that day,
Yeah.
so 9 through
Yep.
9:30,
There was an opening at 8:35.
you are right
And it
on.
takes usually about 10 minutes for...
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
Peggy,
Yeah.
will you
Pardon?
be here?
Yes. Oh, I will be
Oh.
gone, won't I?
Won't be here.
Well, Chris can do it, 'cause it's pretty cut and dried at that point.
8:30
Yep,
or 8:40?
8:35,
8:35.
yep. Thank you, Carl, for reminding me, I forgot, that's our
Out
trip.
in DC,
That's
Yep.
February 27th.
okay.
Yes. For Chris.
Location, okay, I will need a motion stating that date and time.
I'll make a motion to take, February 27th at 8:35 for the budget amendment.
I have a first, second by Dave, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We got a few minutes, wanna do anything else, or do committee reports? Let's do committee reports.
I'm gonna have you sign this for me so we can get that paid.
I
Those
gotta
came
get
in
back to
today.
January.
I'll bring those in after
Rick,
you're
would you
done.
like me to elaborate a little bit with their kind of a segue into their presentation on the IOU survey and stuff?
Well, sure,
You know,
yeah, we got time.
I mean, they presented some statistics and stuff, and they were talking about education, and I think Bruce mentioned that DARE is a very important part of it, but it's not the only thing that we do. We have health class that presents different elements. We have what they call a VAS, which is a peer helper of preventive measures about self-esteem. Because most of the time when kids have good self-esteem, they're less likely to do drugs. So not only is the district looking at building, preventing, but it's also building self-esteem of the different students and stuff. In fact,
That program, is that where seniors go down and talk to the younger
that's
classmen?
another.
Oh, I didn't know if that was that one.
Yeah, that's another thing that we do, where the peers go down to talk with them. We have many different classes that do cross-curricular, talking about the drugs and what the cause and stuff. And probably if you really interviewed most students, they would be the first to tell you, are drugs bad for you? And they would say, yeah. So why are you doing it? That's the question that we continue to ask. Last year, with the school board, we listed all of the different classes that we offer, different ways to educate students and to make them feel better about going to school, about going home, about what to do amongst interactions with different people. And it was a lengthy page of different curriculums that we do cover it, from elementary to high school. So we want to continue to, 1% is still not good enough, as far as we're concerned and stuff. So we're like you, we have concerns with our youth, and we want to continue to improve. And as a school district, we are working to continue to keep those numbers down. So a lot of times, like you guys know too, as parents, as people in the community, is that we need help from the people at home, to help us out, to ask those questions. Where are you going? Who are you going with? Who's on the internet with you now? Why are you being secretive about this? Trust factors and stuff, so.
More parental involvement.
Correct.
Not used to that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll try.
So, anyway.
Okay, well, thanks, Greg. Bruce, do you wanna continue?
Yeah, let's see, the 24th, we had our Udmo meeting, but we were getting ready to leave and they canceled it, so that was the night of the storm. Thursday we went, excuse me, we had our ag drainage well meeting, at the Oxbow at 9 and then at 1 o'clock. I guess I'll put in there that our participation, I thought numbers wise we were very well attended, lots of questions, a lot of interest. Then at 3 o'clock we came up here and had a afternoon with Peggy on our budget. 6 o'clock, I went to Webster City for our CFR, meeting, monthly meeting. We're getting closer to putting our feet on the ground and going out and talking, actively pursuing, funds for the facility that they're hoping to build. I said down there, when you drive by on 169, if you look behind Tom Thumb, there's that, it's like 4 acres. CFR has purchased that, and, that's going to be, hopefully in the near future, in a couple of years, that's where the facilities will be built. And then they'll be able to bring 3, existing buildings for, the detox and the kids' treatment in the north building out there by the, buses will all be put under one roof. And then the 8 counties will share in using that. That's all I did for the week.
Very good. On Monday, Rick and I was at a housing meeting, Humboldt housing, county housing. We're trying to gear up a little bit to see what we can do to help Prestige. We're gonna probably have an influx of people coming into the county. We don't have enough housing to go around, so the wheels are in motion trying to figure out how to accommodate these people, and that'd be a boom to us and help them out at the same time. Let's see, Thursday, I went to, mental health new design meeting. I gave you all a map. There were 6 of us out of that 22 counties, first time board meeting. So our board meeting went 5 hours instead of 2 hours. It was orientated a little bit. But the map here, there's regional mental health groups, and ours is that blue up at the top. We're the largest one geographically, but not the largest population-wise. And basically, we just went over what they do and these kinds of things. One of the big topics that took most of the time that day was talking about reorganization, trying to do more at the region and less at the county, and that wasn't 100% received well. That was tabled, and we're gonna talk about that again in February. In the meantime, I'm gonna have our, gal upstairs,
Kathy?
Kathy Erickson come down. I've talked to her a little bit about it. She's gonna try to explain to us what our advantage is, what the advantage be that way. If need be, Bob Lincoln said he'd come down and talk to us. So we have some hills to get over before we completely go into that situation. The other thing I did learn, and I talked to Kruger about it, the CEO from the juvenile detention at Aldora came to me and said, why don't you guys use us to transport your people in mental health to the mental health sites? Says Webster County using about 90% of us. I talked to Dean about that, and he thought it'd be a good idea. He's gonna see if he can work that out. You know, we always got a sheriff on the road someplace, and if we can get those guys to do it, there's 60 vehicles in this area that's running around. He said he'd get here real fast.
And usually that's overtime pay.
Right.
That
I said, what does that cost us? They said nothing. They bill that back to mental health area region, which Dean probably does too, but at least he didn't have to hire a deputy and put him on the road. So we may get some advantage. And I think that was about all I had that week.
Where was the...
That was at Allison, Iowa.
Allison?
Or Buchanan County.
Wednesday I had a Midas meeting, got canceled. Thursday I was out to the Oxbow for the Ag Wells closure. 9 to 1 out there, and then back up here at 2:30 for budget in the afternoon.
Went to the budget too.
This past Wednesday, I also had a meeting canceled, the board meeting, Mental Health Advisory Board in Cherokee because of the weather. That was canceled, and the next meeting's like March, I believe. Yes, concur with the drainage well meeting, was very good, very well attended, and good information presented, good discussion. And then the budget run-through thing after that Wednesday, or Thursday afternoon, so that's all I had.
Okay, Monday at 3, I had the housing meeting, with Prestige coming to town. Might have a lot to do with what these people are coming to talk to us about. 24th, I had my landfill meeting was canceled. 25th, LEC walkthrough. We walked through with the engineer and Dean, made a list of a few little things that, had popped up that we missed over the the year, because it was our year anniversary, so the warranty runs out, so they wanted to make sure they got everything fine-tuned. And then, on Thursday, I was at the Oxbow at 9 and at 1, and then the work session at 3. And that was it. Okay, it's 9:15. We'll have Alyssa, who's gonna be the spokesperson here.
We got the whole gang here, we meet about every 2 weeks, and Alyssa's our chairman, so you wanna tell us what we've been up to for the last 3 years?
Nothing like that, we have to start.
The whole family here this morning.
Yeah, we all know, you guys heard it in my funding request,
Yes.
a few months ago, so I
Get it.
don't think there's much to share
This is where the
beyond.
CD,
But
This is
here's
new.
the daycare board. Yeah, I don't think there's much to share. Here's where we are. I'll just talk really loud, because that's intimidating. Here's where we are. We have heard, as I'm sure you have, from numerous people, and employers, that this daycare is a major issue. We all know that even if you don't need daycare, and you know a bunch of people that don't need daycare, there's a lot more that do. So, the board members got together and said, okay, what can we do to make this thing happen, and happen quickly? And so what we came up with, I keep calling it interim financing, our banker in the room will probably call it temporary, but what we're looking to do is essentially borrow the funds to be able to construct the facility theoretically today. That affords all of us, who clearly have day jobs, the opportunity to go out and fundraise while it's being constructed. So the flip side of that is, we wait until we have all the money fundraised, and we're looking at sticking a shovel in the ground, realistically, probably in August. I think the support, and those speak up if you want, I think the support is absolutely there. I think what we need in order to kickstart this is that temporary or interim financing, which is where we have asked for this, what's called this second $500,000. We've asked the hospital, the city of Humboldt, and the supervisors to guarantee the payment on that so that we can move forward. So here's how it works, and I'll throw our banker under the bus quick and say, they can't give us a loan without some sort of collateral. We're a nonprofit, no history, and no assets. So unfortunately, that puts us in a position where we have to go out to our partners and say, can you use your assets? And in this case, we're asking for your name, and your ability to levy taxes, and that's what we're using as collateral. So in guaranteeing your portion respectively of this second $500,000, it allows us to get the thing started. And that's really where we're running into a roadblock. I think you can see, I don't need to point out where we all work, but we all have day jobs, and it's a significant challenge for us to get out there, and get out there in a quick hurry, and this thing needs to be built 3 years ago. So, I mean, do you guys have anything you want to add? I don't want to be the only spokesperson, but I just think the important message is there is no lack of support. It's absolutely out there. We have a board of about 15 people that have very massive jobs, and so adding this to our plate has been a challenge for us. So we're doing it, we're making it happen, we're going to continue to move forward. We're just asking for that, I guess, temporary help. So here's the plan. You theoretically guarantee, respectively, your portion of the second $500,000. We have $1 million in, let's call it, borrowed funds, and then we've got the rest of it allocated so that we can go to bid as soon as the architect's ready to go to bid. We would start construction in the spring while all of us continue to fundraise to pay off what we're calling that second $500,000. So that's what we're talking about today. So our intention is, and we've shared this with First State Bank, our intention is at the end of this, at the end of construction, there is no second $500,000, if that makes sense, that we don't turn that into permanent financing. So obviously we'll have a construction note for the $1.4 million, and that'll be collateralized by the first 28 East, that first $500,000 we keep talking about, this second $500,000, and then we've got cash equity for the project. So that's how it looks from a financing standpoint. That gets the shovel in the ground, and then like I said, we fundraise through construction, and at the end of this, we end up with a loan at $500,000. That's the intention.
I think it's important to point out too that through our cash flow analysis and everything else, that we feel comfortable that we can service that debt as a daycare. I mean, if we're at, I think it was 50% or higher, we can service that debt as a board or as a facility. So it's not like we're just gonna finance it all, we're comfortable that's gonna be full.
And that's actually
That's
really
at
great.
50%
That's at
occupancy.
50%, Alyssa's got all the,
That's
we
a
can
really
share that
great
with you,
point.
but.
So we did do a Plan B for you guys. So Plan B is we don't raise another dime. And we've got our first $500,000 and now we've got this second. And so we, the day cash, figure out a way to pay for this, but we don't have to come back to you and say, hey, remember that guarantee you did? We could collect some of that. So Ross brought up a really great point. We can sustain the debt. I'll tell you the same thing that you're probably telling yourselves, we don't want to sustain it, just as the same as you don't want to. And so I want to keep going back to, at the end of the day, we hope that that $500,000 isn't there, but to Ross's point, you brought up a great one. If it's there, we believe that we can sustain that. So we've created the project to hold 110 children, and we did that on purpose because we wanted to allow for a little bit of future growth. That does not mean that we have to have 110 children to cash flow. So I just want to be clear on that. We thought if we're doing this once, let's do it and plan for some extra children. So, great point, Russ. Yeah, we can sustain that should we need to do that on our own.
As a school district, I'd like to thank the supervisors for the partnership we've always had and stuff. And this is another key component of that partnership and you guys have seen where it's located and stuff, and also the school. But what's important is the past, or the other previous, the cities, the hospital, and in the past, the county support of that is much needed for that. And you've heard the different illustrations of the school district of where people are going out of our school district or not moving in because of the lack of daycare and stuff. But also, I'd like to kind of bring up a point, I think it was about 8 years ago, I think Rick was on our board, and Carl, you were on the supervisors, I don't think anyone else was on it at the time, was that, part of the funding was a percentage was going to the school for different items. And a part of that was cut off due to, you felt more, the county felt like it was more for advancing of development, economic development. And as a school district, when economic development's going good, so is the school. And so as a school district, we said, okay, supervisors, you guys take that extra, a little bit of funding and utilize it into economic development. This is another area and stuff. And I just appreciate the partnership that all of us, have amongst our county, and that's what makes it strong. And I think that you guys being the last key component is showing your leadership with that.
And the other thing I do want to point out, what started us here is workforce. Just objectively, based on numbers alone, we do not have enough people in Humboldt County that are either willing to switch employment or currently don't have employment to take the jobs that we have in Humboldt County. We know that. There's no arguing that point. And so that leads us to the only logical conclusion that we have to take these people from somewhere else. They aren't from Humboldt County. And so we all know, in order to be able to do that, I was one of those people 7 years ago, where do I take my child to daycare? And we don't have an answer for that. So I think we have to remember, and Michelle can speak to that, when we're recruiting people from outside of Humboldt County, we have to have those amenities available, at least the key essential amenities that encourage them to be part of it. So I don't know if you want to speak about recruitment and...
Yeah, when I'm recruiting physicians or nurse practitioners, that's one of the 3 questions I ask, and one is the schools, one is the healthcare, and the other is the childcare. And unfortunately, we don't have a third answer for them today. Our 2 new physicians, the Woods that moved to town, we were lucky enough to find somebody to nanny for them, but that was pure luck. And I've started recruiting again for more physicians because we don't have enough, and I fear the same question will come because we are recruiting families. Those are the ones that are going to likely stay with us longer than their 3-year commitment. So we have to have this in order for the hospital itself to move forward as well.
Do you have any questions from the board?
Well, first of all, where do you expect to get the fundraised money? How do you seem fairly confident of raising that when you get your efforts focused on that. Where is that coming from? Who is it coming from?
So it'll come from the business community and the individuals. And so our intention, like I said, I do feel confident, because I know how hard it is for us to get out there, that I think that there's a group of businesses that haven't even been asked.
I can appreciate that.
So I wanna be clear, that ownership lies on us, and we understand that, but I think that's where this jump start helps. The other thing we talked about is doing kind of a community event to get Joe Q citizen involved in the project, so that we're getting personal contributions as well, and we haven't even started that. So those individuals that have contributed financially to this project have done so in some connection to some of us that understand the need for the project. We haven't done what I would call a capital campaign on the individual side either. So those campaigns need to work together, because obviously we have equipment needs and things like that. So from our standpoint, it isn't just this second $500,000, and that's what I'm trying to encourage you guys to be mindful of, is we have to equip it. It's not good enough just to put the building up there, because we don't have cribs and things like that. So our fundraising efforts span greater than just this second $500,000. We have needs that we need to meet. And then I do feel confident, I mean, board, speak up if you'd like, but I really think that there's a group of people that we just haven't had the chance to ask yet.
Well, I wouldn't discount that, but given the fact that District 4, which I represent, is typically generally rural.
Sure.
You know, my constituency is concerned with this whole project.
Mhm.
What is it gaining them?
Sure.
You know, and now as the Board of Supervisors, I want to know what the potential benefit to the county is.
Sure.
And, you know, I don't want to pour cold water on your
Sure.
projects, and please bear with me, I just started, I'm aware of this, but not as well as the guys that have been here a little longer. So, you know, I have a concern about getting the extra money, you know, we're putting our name on the line potentially to guarantee funds to get everything up and running. I can pretty well, I can't speak to everyone, but I've had a lot of discussion with my constituency. No one wants to pay more taxes for daycare built here. And I think for the county, and certainly for the people in my district, they have a pretty big concern about that.
Sure. And I've got a great answer for you. So it's the same answer we give through Humboldt County Development. So if we put a project in the city of Humboldt, how does that benefit Thor? And I'm just picking
That's a good analogy.
Just picking on.
That's a good analogy.
The answer to that is taxes. So when we, as an economic development organization, set our sights on increasing taxable valuation in Humboldt County, that's our job, right? And so when we do that, it keeps taxes lower, because then you have more money to play with. And if you look at the last 7 years, you have about theoretically $20 million more in taxable valuation. So what my answer to them would be, even if you don't use it, you have no grandchildren, no great-grandchildren, you're not going to use it. The point is, we have to encourage economic development. And in order to do that, we have to support our industries, because you guys can look at the property taxes, you receive probably a fair portion from industry and a much smaller portion from residential. And so when you look at the industry payback, we want to keep those industries here, and in order to do that, we have to have workforce. And workforce is a crisis, it's not just us, but my answer to them is we have to have people to fill these jobs. And if we don't have people to fill these jobs, those businesses aren't profitable. And if they're not profitable, they're not expanding, they're not growing, they're not adding people, and that's where we help you. It's because when they grow and expand and add and capital injections, that's revenue into the county and into the cities that otherwise wouldn't happen. And so that's our mission every day we come to work, is to grow that industrial base, because those are our largest taxpayers. And so my answer is just, it's economic development. And I know that it's hard, because, right, everything is economic development. So is parks, and so is bridges, and so is, I get that. But the point that we've made to those communities, because I've received calls myself, and, you know, I'm 80 years old, and my kids don't live here, and my grandkids don't live here, and so how does this benefit me? And the answer is, we're growing Humboldt County. And do I use the aquatic center? Maybe not. Does that mean I don't need an aquatic center? Probably not. So I would just encourage people to be mindful that, and if you look at the population of Humboldt County, we're aging. And so in order for us to, one, not only take those jobs that are here today, but that are going to be here in the future, we have to look at those next generation workforce. And Greg can tell you, a lot of our programming that we're doing is in the schools, because I need that next generation workforce to fill the jobs of tomorrow. And so it really is a forward-thinking, progressive look. We get that you might not use it, but at the end of the day, this is what makes economic development work.
Well, that's not gonna be an issue with the people in the county that aren't using it, unless they get levied more taxes, and they end up paying for
Yeah.
something they're not using, they're all for workforce development, all for more tax revenue. No one will discount that. We'd love to see that. I wanna say one other thing, one thing that, this is just a general observation, and I apologize for not having this detailed information as some of these folks, but this whole thing, theory of Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come, concerns me just a little bit. I wanna go on record as saying that. Love to see this thing filled to capacity because it brought more people in and a bigger workforce and better revenue for the county. You know, we aren't talking, you know, Humboldt, Dakota City, that stuff, and, you know, believe you me, when you represent the largest geographic district in Humboldt County, it's the largest geographic district because the fewest people live there and it's rural. And this is a concern, so I hear that particularly. I like your analogy of talking to a small town of Thor, or pick your small town in the county, but that is a legitimate concern. No one's gonna complain that this all gets up and running and it's good and it's needed and it's filled and there's money going back into the county, but there is gonna be a ferocious uproar if this gets signed, the money's defaulted on, it gets back, and the citizens of the county end up paying money for something that they don't use, some of them really don't want. That's gonna be a humongous concern.
And I can tell you, I don't doubt, I think Michelle would have the same uproar that Humboldt County Development would, that the school district would, that the city of Humboldt would, so I echo that 100%. And as a citizen of Humboldt County, I don't want my taxes to go up either, I get that.
Yeah.
I do, I think, one, build it, they will come, correct. I'm way too conservative, so as Ross said, we have 16 different versions of a cash flow to make sure that this thing's gonna work. Two, I wanna keep in mind, we are the capacity is 110 because we've heard through this process and through all the best practices, don't build it for 50 if you think that's your need, because then you're gonna be doing this project again in 2 years, and we don't wanna be here. So it's one and done kind of thing. So as Ross spoke, 110 is not what it takes to cash flow it. And so certainly, I think we could all agree that we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some sort of need, because it does not benefit any one of our organizations specifically to be in this position, to be doing this project. And so we're doing it because our day jobs see the need for this attribute. So I completely agree with you, and I can tell you, I've already had phone calls from the Thors, from the Livermores, from the Bodes of the world, and I absolutely understand what they're saying. This isn't an intention to levy taxes. We told the city of Humboldt that too. If it were, we would be clear that we have no intention to pay it, and you may have to raise taxes.
You're not, no, I know, you're going forward in good faith, that it's just gonna work, and, you know, I don't even know if I wanna get into the particulars that you have figured out. You have 110 person, children capacity. You're figuring roughly half of that will make a nice cash flow to,
service the debt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm too conservative. I told the group that from the numbers standpoint, because I overestimate our expenses and underestimate revenue, so I like...
That's not a bad way to be.
I like 65.
And
I'm not gonna say 50,
I mean-
I'm gonna go 65. If I'm gonna be on the record, I'm gonna say 65. 65 children is where I'd like to be.
Eric, one thing too is that your district is my district too, with Twin Rivers and stuff.
Right.
And I get those concerns too, as I'm, decide taxes and stuff too for that. I'm very conscious of it, as you know, the Twin Rivers, we've knocked down our taxes by $6 per assessed value of 1,000. So I get and I hear it, but mind you, since I've been Twin Rivers superintendent as well as Humboldt, at Twin Rivers, I'm speaking on behalf, since it's your district that you had brought up. I think that when I first started, there were 6 daycare providers, and then also the school has a small one too. Right now, there's maybe 2. I know 1 for sure, and she's full and turning around people. Mr. Hazenkamp, our principal, gets calls many different times, probably bi-weekly, and he can attest to this because he calls and reminds me, we need daycare because people are not moving here because they don't have the daycare. And we get the phone calls at Twin Rivers saying, we need daycare, we need something, where can we go for this? And we just don't have any idea to say, we got the normal list that we give, of people give us, and we send out and stuff. But I hear that concern, and a lot of them are asking me, but we get the phone calls and stuff in your area because there just isn't the population that used to be, and trust me,
There
I wish there was.
That's why my area keeps getting bigger. That's
Right.
not because they think I'm wonderful and need more land mass,
Right,
it's
right.
because less people live there.
No, I agree with you on that, and it would make my job a lot better too if you had more kids and more mass.
Well, and to speak to that though, so someone that may move out into the more rural area and does need daycare, is it fair to them that it's is located in, I speak correctly, it's Dakota City, correct?
Mhm.
So, it located in Dakota City and they live in Bode or
Mhm.
Odison or in a rural area. And they wanna move here and they want their kids to go here and they found one of those jobs that needs to be filled, but they don't live very close to this proposed daycare.
But you'll see the B line, and they always call the direction of where the car is going to work,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
the
and-
key. And there's other places that, frustrate some people of where they go to work and stuff. And if you looked at, in your district area, I'd say the highest percentage of them, their cars are pointed this direction.
Yeah, I know, but, you know, not everyone does, and
No,
that's,
no,
I'm
I'm
bringing
not
up
saying
concerns,
100%
because I do represent the people,
But I
not
think the
just
other
me.
side of that, which
Yep.
is a good argument, is, let's say hypothetically, there are 2 in-home daycare providers in Community A.
Yeah.
My argument would be those that are commuting to this area can bring their children to the daycare center, which frees up more, spots in those 2 providers in Community A. So if I live in Community A and I work in Community A, now I have an opening with daycare provider in Community A.
True.
Because those that were going there can now commute
That
here.
one might be
So-
with the car direction, or
Right,
the,
right.
that's, you know, and I like pragmatic thought processes, I really do.
And let's talk worst case scenario, because that's what you're addressing with the theoretical increase in taxes.
Well,
So
yeah,
worst
that
case-
better be very theoretical, or that isn't gonna fly.
So worst case scenario, because the only way we would get to your worst case scenario that taxes are increased is if all of these things I'm about to say don't happen. So 1, we don't fundraise another dime. What is the reality of that? Slim to none. 2, we aren't able to even contribute anything whatsoever to the debt service. What is the logic of that? I mean, your numbers would have to be so small, like 15 kids. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, you would have to have an absolute perfect storm of complete failure in order for you to need to increase taxes to be able to cover that debt. You know
Well,
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
yeah, and I don't
you
like to be
literally
the devil's advocate or play devil's advocate,
Sure.
however that goes, but you do have to look at the worst case scenario.
Absolutely, and I encourage you to, because that's being responsible fiscally, absolutely. I'm just also putting into perspective, all of these things would have to completely fail in order for us to...
Well, I understand that, but, and I'm not wishing any of that, I'm
Yeah,
wishing it's good.
yeah.
Carl's got a question.
Economically, we got a budget meeting today after we get done with the board meeting. I think our assessed valuation for the county's up $58 million this year, is that right?
It's up, I don't think it's quite that much, but.
It's up considerable amount. We are gonna benefit. Our meeting today is gonna be a lot easier because that increased assessed valuation. This is gonna increase assessed valuation. It's gonna help everybody throughout the county. Whether they have daycare needs or not, they're gonna get their taxes benefited by economic growth.
No, I'd like to look on the positive side.
This is the economic growth.
Yes.
And
It shows
it's
the
hard to
trend
see
growth.
because we're not coming to you with a business X wants to locate in this quadrant and they're gonna bring 16 people and $2 million in taxable valuation. So it's hard to see that this project is a way to increase taxable valuation. I get that, I totally do. I'm just telling you from my day job standpoint, that absolutely is how this happens. We need to have the amenities and the attributes in our communities and in our county to be able to sustain additional job growth. For today, we just need to sustain what we have. We have people that want to hire people that can't. And so I know we've talked about that. Those of you someone's on the web here, whoever's on the web, would know that. It's a major issue, and so I'm sure you're talking about it on the web level, and we're talking about it, below that, but yeah. Yep.
I got one question, it's been asked to me several times, what's the effect with the school boards? Is that gonna put a burden on them with the building being on school property? They're gonna have to pay more insurance? Are you people taking care of that part of it, or, you know, that's a question that was
Yeah, so we're just
asked?
leasing the land from the school, and we wanna be very clear about that. It is not a school-operated childcare center. It is owned and operated by the nonprofit group. There are some amazing synergies in being physically connected to the school And so I don't want to speak for the school, but I think that's why they saw that connection. So if you guys can imagine, what other childcare center has access to a media lab, to a library, to a cafeteria? Likely none. And so we will lease it and we will be responsible for our portion. In this cash flow analysis that Ross was talking about, we have legal insurance and capital set aside. So we'll maintain the general liability because we'll lease it, and it's not owned by the school, so they obviously couldn't insure a building they don't own. So,
And the school board's 100% behind it because they see the need for it too. Some of them in business, they're looking for, employees and stuff, and they get the phone calls too of, the parent that's upset because they have no place to take their kid. They just moved in, nowhere to put it, I'll tell you a story. There's a parent that lives a block away from here. They take their kids elsewhere because they don't have daycare. So for a school board, that's just $6,000. We calculated last year, I think we lost $60,000 due to people wanting to go here, and they had to move or open enroll their kids somewhere else because they couldn't get daycare. So they took their kid into Fort Dodge or wherever, and because they had daycare there. So we lost.
According to Fort Dodge is behind too.
Yeah.
You read the article there?
We can back up,
Superintendent, he's saying the same thing.
we can back up 3 years from now. We started talking about this. We visited a lot of sites. We went to other communities. We first started out at Our Savior's Church, trying to get that to work. Then we talked about the city hall, trying to get that to work. We talked about the middle school. That didn't work. We ended up talking up here. And the pros and cons of being up here are so much greater than any other place we talked about. It's a no-brainer to go up here.
The options, and Rick has been on
Yeah,
a 4-year journey with us. We are now up to 4 years. Humboldt County Development has been actively involved in this project, and so the need is obviously there, and we did everything we could. Our Saviors was about 35 kids. This will provide immediate relief, and it'll be the best project. The cost to renovate it just doesn't make sense because you're leasing someone else's building. And the fire marshal didn't like the no elevators, and then you just get into, it didn't make sense. So we tried the Methodist church again because it was there at one point, and that wasn't going to be feasible either with the number of rooms that they had. The middle school wasn't feasible. At the end of the day, you guys can do the cash flow. If you don't have enough children, you can't, there's no way it works. You just can't service enough children to pay the debts that are associated with it. So at some point, there's a magic number, and if you don't go over that magic number, you won't cash flow because you just don't have enough kids to pay the fixed costs that are there regardless of the number of children you have. So you're absolutely right. And the other comment I do want to point to really quickly is the cost. We've had a lot of comment on the cost. Part of the other reason why we're here and want to get this to bid is so we can figure out what the real cost is. So the architect's estimate is $1.44 million, and until we go to bid, we don't know if that's 1.2, 1.4, or 1.1, and so that's part of wanting to do that, because that might help us in the end. If we know going into it we have 1.4 and it comes back at 1.2, we already have 200 sort of to help this second $500,000.
And some of the contractors talk about in-kind when it comes to building too.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
I've been in this process, like you say, for several years, and I do see the vast need for it. And I know it's gonna grow our county. And if you're not growing, you're dying. There's gonna be an influx of people into our neighboring county here in jobs. They need a place to live. They'll have children, and that will decide where they live. And I think we've missed that boat. It may be a long time to grow our county, because there's not too often you have a business that brings in that number of employees.
And we've talked about the Humboldt County Development, to these gentlemen's point, formed a task force looking at ways that we can grow Humboldt County in the wake of Prestige, and Rick said it perfectly. I'm not sure, in my tenure at least, we'll have the opportunity to recruit 220 highly skilled professionals in Humboldt County. And they will live in the small cities. They will, that doesn't mean Humboldt or Dakota City. I'm not speaking very specifically for them, but in totality, 1,000 jobs in the first year and up to 2,000 by year 3. So I do think we need to look at ways that we can encourage people to live in Humboldt County. We've always been progressive, we know that from the housing side, but I think to Rick's point, if we don't continue to think that way, we're gonna fall behind. So, you know, I
Yeah.
obviously appreciate you, I know, heard a lot about it in the 4 years,
Well,
but.
you know, I've gotten the calls, people, you get more people against, if they're against it, they let you know.
Mhm.
If they're for it, they don't talk to you.
And then I will tell you, there are people that have called me, not just really that excited about the project. But you know what, I told everyone, come into my office and let's sit down and talk about it. Not that I'm gonna change your mind, but at least let me present you with the facts, and if you still don't like it, that's fine, but then I feel like you're educated enough to say you don't like it,
Mhm.
here's why. So I encourage people to call, and if there's any information we can provide, we're sure happy to. You're right, we've heard from those people that don't like it, that's generally what happens. But I would wonder if they don't like it based upon the facts, I guess, would be my only
Well, yeah.
comment there.
More
You know, we've had some real good discussion this morning. I'm gonna put a motion on the table. We continue discussion. I move we approve resolution numbers 217.4.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Carl, second by Dave. Is there any more discussion?
That's what we've been talking about all morning.
Clarify, is that signing us off on signing this note, or where are we at with that? Just, I wanna know what I'm
That
voting.
signs us on to backing the note.
Well,
Is
can I
there-
ask another question?
Resolution tells us 40% we're on the hook for it.
So, yeah, I mean, and apologize that, you know, I'm aware of this, but I don't have the background information.
No, that's
Because
great.
Yeah.
thought that-
You haven't been involved in the last...
I wasn't
4
here
years.
as long as you were, and
Mhm.
obviously, there's nothing I can do about that. I had to get elected to be here, so, there you go. Anyway,
Okay.
so, can I
Yes,
ask
go ahead.
another question? Because I
Yep.
don't wanna vote on something that I'm not a little bit more sure about. If this gets defaulted on, the county is on the hook, and we have to pay, what is that going to do to the taxes generally? Not specifically, but where does that, obviously, that then affects the citizens of the county
Yep.
with,
So it would, you're agreeing to guarantee 200 of the 500 amortized over 20 years. So should the world cave in, your obligation at the end of the day would be 200,000 amortized over 20 years as a
For the
monthly payment amount.
county. So it's not obviously huge, I don't wanna base it on that.
What's the numbers? The county is 2, the city is
One.
2,
the hospital is 1. How come you guys got so cheap? Well, I just have a couple of questions. The location of
She
the
was
building...
gone that day, we couldn't give her 200.
Is this building gonna be taxable? Being the school isn't taxable, is this
No.
building taxable?
It is nonprofit, right?
No.
Okay.
You donate the money that you can take off your taxes, Eric.
Another
think I'll
question
be
I get
going.
asked, and I haven't had the answer for, what is the cost gonna be to parents? Have they put the
rate.
price, the rate,
Yeah, so,
or a rough estimate?
the board, yeah, I wanna be fair to the board has not set the rate, but we've done the cash flow, and so, while I say it's an estimate, I think it's pretty fair, because we base the cash flow on it. So the infant rate is $3 an hour, and the toddler rate is $2.75 an hour. And so it's about 5 cents higher per hour than our competitors. We've done that on purpose for 2 reasons. One, we absolutely are not poaching from in-home. I want to be very, very clear that is not our intention. And the second reason is it's a learning center. We have a media center, we have a library, we have the ability to structure the center in such a way that we're teaching these children something, and I think that's worth fighting.
And curriculum from the school.
Yeah,
Families
so-
involved in the curriculum.
Yeah, I'm Pamela Johnson, Director of Curriculum Instruction for Humboldt Schools, and the benefits of having a learning center for our children, I think there's a lot of great learning that's happening in the in-home environment. And I think parents need that choice, you know, do I want to have all my kids in that same environment, or do I want them in separate rooms in a center? And there's a lot for parents to think about. We do have a collaborative literacy effort with our in-home providers that we've been meeting with them. We provide them literacy kits, and we're helping to build the literacy skills within the home environment. One of the last conversations we had, we did an educational, kind of retreat for them, to make those connections, and one of them said, you know, we have people calling us and crying, saying, you have to take my child, I need someplace for my child to go. And the child care provider is bound to those regulations of what can happen in the home environment and how many kids per adult. So they, I mean, they really see the need, and I think I could say that we have the majority of the support of the in-home providers, that they're very excited about the potential. They're excited about the potential of, if I'm sick as a child care provider, I have to tell these parents that they can't come to child care. So what does that parent do? Calls the boss and says, I have to stay home today. I'm sick, or I have, you know, I tell the truth and I've got to be home with my kids. But we're really looking at a creative curriculum approach. We're really looking at that project breaks approach, getting kids at higher order thinking, and so the collaboration efforts between the school and the child care are just phenomenal. Working with St. Mary's also, you know, so that wherever those kids go to school, thinking when they're out of preschool, half a day, they'll have transportation to be able to get to the center from St. Mary's, as well as be able to walk through the hallway to get there. So there's a lot of huge potential for the educational realm for these kids. And as you think about drawing people to Humboldt County, if you go on, there's a NICHE, it's called Niche, is a web page where they review counties and they cities, and they review schools. We have an A+ rating, Humboldt Community School does. If you look at the Iowa report card, you can go online and look at that. Our ratings are huge. So as people look and they're going to live somewhere near where they're going to work, they're going to be drawn to Humboldt Community Schools because of that, because of our ratings and the great performance that our kids are having. So I think that perspective, you know, I don't know how many there is, but I hear that there's, you know, 15 to 20 families that drive west of here to drop their kids at childcare and come back here to work. And so I just think that there's some really huge benefits. If a kid has a little bit of disability or hearing loss, you know, and we'll question it, you know, we can get one of our AEA consultants to walk through the little round, take a little look at the kids, see how they're doing. So the list just goes on and on. So I hope that you'll be able to do that. And I'm not on the fundraising side. Unfortunately, I don't live in Humboldt County, but as the fundraisers, all of these guys have been going knocking on doors and talking to businesses. And a lot of businesses, fiscal years, you know, I'll give this fiscal year, that fiscal year. So I see money coming in. It's just been a slow process because of the time and effort that we've been able to put in.
Rick, I have one more.
Got one more
I have one
question?
more question. And I don't wanna beat this thing. I appreciate everything you guys have done, 'cause I've been on those boards, and you feel like you're chasing your tail, and it just never ending. I was also on the board or the group that helped raise the money for the weight room up there. We went to the people and asked them, will you donate? Sure, we raised the money. At the end, it was found out that we couldn't use the school facility for the public because it might get hurt. So the school wasn't willing to let them use it like they planned, after the money was already put in the building. So there's a lot of people that are just a little bit iffy about, well, we put it on the school, if it goes south, that building's sitting next to the school. So my question is, if everything's up and on the up and up, and everything's been checked out, I don't have a problem in the world, because I think we need it. But I do have a problem if we don't know what happens if, like Eric said, or the questions aren't answered, because those are the people that have called me, emailed you and said, what do we do? So that's my question. As long as the school is behind it 100% and it's on record that they're in, I guess we're good.
Yeah, and I mean, the ground lease is being drafted now, so Mr. Darling and I are working on that. I hope we don't get to the end and he doesn't sign it, but, yeah, I can tell you the ground lease is literally being drafted as we speak.
That's fine.
It is on school property, like I mentioned, because of the amenities that were afforded by being on school property.
But the other side of the coin is you also have those older people that are saying, well, there's buildings that are, you know, the mentality of, I drive a combine for an extra 5 years because I don't wanna go spend $700, $600. 500,
those
whatever
are the
the-
people I wanna talk to. We had the same conversation here at the city council meeting.
Right.
It just doesn't work, and I get that in your head, you go, I can buy that building for $100,000, and I can even put $1 million in it, and I'm still $300,000 less than this. At the end of the day, it just doesn't work, right? And so, one, is the layout right? Probably not, because it was used for whatever it was, which wasn't childcare. 2, does the fire marshal like it? Probably not. 3, has it been grandfathered in, and that's why it's not meeting those applicable laws? Yes, probably. So now we have ADA, the fire marshal, and DHS that are all gonna take a look at that building and tell me it doesn't work, because we did it with our Saviors, we did it with Methodist Church, we did it with the old fire station. So we've got 3 case studies, and I don't mean any disrespect to those organizations at all, but we have 3 case studies where those 3 organizations came in and said, yeah, this'll work if you do this, this, and this, and then I'm up to my 1.4 million anyway.
Sure.
And so, those people I do wanna talk to, and we had a city council member that thought the same thing, and I think it just takes a little bit of education to say, look, at the end of the day, the acquisition price is, you can't look at that, because I can't operate a childcare center out of it based on the acquisition price. So, if you have those concerns, Bruce, send them my way, I'm happy to go through it dollars and cents.
And just from a high level, we're building space just for classrooms for these kids to be in. We get to utilize the school's library, cafeteria, the food that comes with it, the playgrounds, the snow removal. I mean, the list goes on beyond what we're having to build and all the price or saving. So at the end of the day, when you compare apples to apples, we're probably back at the same starting point, whereas this is much safer for the kids, from the busing, from security, from all the above by being attached to a school.
This all is great, and I hope it is close to capacity in a short amount of time.
We do too.
But
So do we.
you're basing it on a fair amount of kids in a fairly short amount of time to fund all of this. Let me go on record and say, if this comes back and the county ends up having to raise taxes, I may not get reelected.
I don't think
I
I
don't
would.
think any of us
Matter.
will reelected.
No.
5 new board members.
No, I'm all for growth, and we take risks. Everybody that's done whatever business that they've been, from a farmer to their own business and
I'm shutting
whatever.
my phone off after we vote.
Right?
You, have to take and assume risks, but the people that have failed have bit off more they can chew as well.
Our goal at the end of this is to fundraise every last dollar. And I'm in charge of the business side of it. We put that on hold because unfortunately a lot of the businesses that knew we needed this have supported it straight up. Others are sitting back saying, is this actually gonna happen? Once it does, here's our money. So we're in this limbo right now of we need money to get that hole in the ground because we can't be here 18 months.
They won't fund something that's not there.
That's right.
They won't contribute to something. I understand all this. My point is, and I hope it succeeds, and I hope we grow revenue in the county, because that's what we're here for, to make more, spend less.
And the
That's
banker,
it.
the banker stepped up to help us out here, but he has certain laws he has to follow. That's the reason he wants a co-signer.
Okay.
It's like my son buying a car. You have to co-sign for him because he didn't have a record.
We've,
You know he's gonna pay it off.
And-
We've
and
had- we've had-
comment, certainly you're not alone. Michelle's gonna have to answer to her board, I'm gonna have to answer to mine, Mr. Darling to his, so
They're my-
we're all
they're-
in it together.
I may refer a few people to you folks.
Well-
Okay, we've had a call for the question, so I think we have to stop discussion.
Okay.
yes,
think
I
we're-
think it's time for a vote. Like you say, you're gonna, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
We got 3 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries. There you are. Go fundraise.
Thank you.
Go fundraise.
Go fundraise.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Hey.
Thanks, gang, for coming.
Don't let that vote
I told him, I
tell
told
you
him,
that.
I see him coming around the corner, he might not be.
I wish you the best.
He was.
And I hope it goes.
I appreciate that. I'll pass it on.
And your grandma.
Hope so.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'm on the line on this one too. Well, don't, if someone comes back, a few down the road, and it didn't work.
You want money, don't you?
Yes, please.
Thank you, guys. That's not gonna be a very good, thank you. That's not gonna be a very good discussion.
Thank you.
Carl made coffee, but he didn't put coffee pot on.
Oh, crap.
No. So it's probably not ready.
No, it's not cold and white. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Good luck, Rob.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, don't let my head know, I mean that I'm not supporting. I damn well better work.
Yep.
They damn well better work, I don't have to tell them about failed, I don't have to tell them about failed, businesses. That's not what they want. Yeah, well, good luck, no, seriously, very good luck.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi, Jamie.
Okay. Sorry to keep you waiting. We had a lengthy discussion.
I heard that.
Could we have a clarification first before we go
Yes.
too much further? All right. Guys, clarification here. First off, the resolution includes also a page that's the pledge of full faith and credit of the county of Humboldt. The two documents go together. So
Do we
what
need
you
a
did
motion for the
authorize-
second page?
No, what you did authorize was that both of those be signed. Rick had said that we had 3 for, and 1 against, but the chairman always has a vote.
Oh,
So,
I will vote for.
okay, so then we had 4 for it.
There, we might as well get you on the end of the plank, too.
Just needed to clarify that, so.
Come on out with it, Rick.
Yeah. I don't know if I wanna be on a plank with you.
Well, thanks.
You're talking about there.
Yeah. Okay. Now, we have Jamie Whitney and Alyssa Schleif from Upper Des Moines.
Okay, we'll have you sign both of those right then.
Here is a copy of.
Sorry, had to delay.
Don't worry about it, that's fine, that kind of stuff happens, I understand. And good luck on your project.
Thanks.
We know how difficult that is, we do it in Nate County, so
Yeah.
those are challenging projects, so.
There you are.
Thank you, Rick.
Oh, we did go a little over.
Ready?
Yep, okay. This is our annual, request that we do and report to you as far as services that we've provided with Upper Des Moines. I've been here, I think, for the last, this will be the 5th year. Oh my gosh, it's hard to believe, time goes by. We haven't asked for any increase this year, but we are here at least to show you what we provided for numbers over the last year. The first page that we got for you, with this small graph there, just shows you, these are duplicated numbers, and it shows you where the core number of services are that we've provided to, in Humboldt County, which comes to the amount of $202,412, for the county for the last year. Based on what I could see is, it looks like a majority of those, numbers have been for emergency and energy services that we provide, which would be like LIHEAP, emergency pantry, and those kind of things that we provide, through our outreach office. Weatherization, it looks like we've, weatherized 3 households here in the community. And then, of course, a lot of the services with seniors and holiday projects were also a big one. One of the things, if you remember, for some of you, I see familiar faces that have been here for a while, we used to provide the food pantry services, but we turned that over a few years ago to the Ministerial Alliance. However, it still continues to be requested from many families that we're getting, and the numbers for some reason seems to increase. And I'll let Alyssa here in a second talk a little bit about that, how we've been approaching that, and she's been working rather well with the Ministerial Alliance and serving on different committees to help fill that need out there. So we just wanted to point that out, that continues to be a growing need for our area. When you look at the unduplicated numbers, which is the ones with a lot of little data on there, this is one that we have to report to the federal government, so we also provide it to you. We served over 1,047 individuals and 369 households last year in Humboldt County alone. All of those families, the majority of those families are all at least right around 125% of the federal poverty line or below. So that was another significant point that we like to point out, is that another interesting twerk to that is that a lot of these families are working. They're not just drawing any kind of assistance or getting any kind of handout.
Did you say 170%?
120%.
25%, okay.
Some of our programs, though, are at 175%, like LIHEAP this year. So, and then also weatherization. It seems like, gosh, that's a lot, but in reality, in today's world, it's not. It really isn't that much more. Like I was saying, a lot of the families continue to be working. They just can't make ends meet. One of the things overall that we are also noticing is the number of single-parent families continues to increase. And that's not just with your county, it's with all the counties that we're seeing. Mothers are out, it's usually single mothers with children out there. Usually they're working. The biggest challenge, and it's nice to have heard you guys have that discussion about childcare, because that becomes a very critical piece of support that they need out there. So those are usually the challenges they're faced. They can't make ends meet. They usually use food pantries and or any kind of emergency subsidies to help supplement what incomes they bring in. So the government, federal government, still hasn't gotten to the point where a lot of these families, and she can, meaning Alyssa, could talk to this a little bit better, still haven't caught on to the point that when families reach that point where they get off TANF or FIP, that they still need that support beyond that. They like to cut them off right away, and that makes it real hard on those mothers, single parents, to be able to continue to meet their needs and their children's needs. One of the other increases that we've had in your counties, we do have a lot more receiving food stamps, and that's been an outreach support that's been pushed by USDA recently, is to recruit and try to get more families on there. And I know we encourage families, if they come in and ask for food supplements, we encourage them to get on that, as well as refer them to the Ministry Alliance. So this year, the request is the same. We're not asking for any more than we have before. We're trying to keep that the same. The economy is not there, and we know that, as far as to ask any increases to that. Any and all support that we can get, we encourage to help keep you guys do a wonderful job at helping to provide office space, and that alone, operational costs, are huge ones for us. So we thank you very much for that support.
Doesn't your request stay here too?
Pardon?
Or your request stays here in Humboldt County?
Yes. Yeah, that's another piece I was gonna articulate after she got done with her
Oh,
piece,
I'm
but,
sorry.
no, that's okay, Bruce. I want you to...
And I think that's important, that, you know, when people request, sometimes that gets distributed out over different, that isn't the case.
Well, actually, yeah, and we do hear that, and it's a piece well, I've torn my hair out, as you can see, trying to figure out a better way to approach that, and that we can't continually explain to people, we do not take the money that the counties give to us, or donations that are whatever is given in this county, out of the county. It always stays here, and we can account for all that money. We can give you whatever you need as far as reports to justify that, and we do that. And I know I ran into a couple situations over the last couple of years to where we've applied for foundation money, and we went before them, and rumor had beat us to that committee, telling them that money would be taken out, and that's not true. It's not fair to jump that conclusion. We've been here since 1998, and that money, every dime we've ever taken, we've kept here, and every dime we've ever pumped into the county has stayed here. We've also brought in lots of other money, as you can see. So, just thank you for bringing that up, because that is an important piece. Want to add a little bit about the food increase need? And
So Bruce kind of knows, as he sits on the Ministerial Association also, and so in Humboldt County, the food pantry here is doing a great job of serving families that need food. However, there is still a gap. There are still families that don't have enough food in their house on a monthly basis. And it's our mission as Upper Des Moines and also the county to make sure that every family in Humboldt County is getting fed the way they need to be. So we brought in a mobile food pantry that's operating every other month now. I think it's kind of our goal to see it more frequently at some point. We're working on trying to get a really solid volunteer base and get the kind of the foundation laid for it. We've kind of muddled through a couple. However, they've been huge. We've ran out of food on the second one. So, and then anything that is left over, that food goes out to the food pantry here in Humboldt County so that they then can give that food out. It is at no cost to Upper Des Moines, to the county, to the Ministerial Association. Food Bank of Iowa brings the food up and delivers it to us that day. Families just get to come and get what we have. There's, we don't ask for a whole lot of documentation or verification when they come. They just really show up and we give them what we can. So hopefully that in combination with the food bank or food pantry here and then the one also at St. Mary's, we're going to start seeing that the numbers of hungry in Humboldt County decline and that we're not in the red. Food Bank of Iowa does a annual thing to see if we're feeding the hungry in our counties the way we're supposed to be. Humboldt County is in the red, which means that we're not. So that's been a big mission of mine, to ensure that all 12 of Upper Des Moines counties, get to be in the red this, or get out of the red and into the green this year. So hopefully with this mobile, and if we need to bring it in monthly to ensure that we get the green here, we're gonna do that.
We made that motion last month. You were gone. weren't
I was
you?
gone, yes. I'm sorry. You guys are running all over the place.
I do.
We made
We're
that
gonna-
motion to switch it to a month,
Okay.
every month, but we're still, as you said, muddling through. When you set up these things, you really don't know what they're bringing. I mean, the truck just backs
That's
up
a kind of a
and
surprise,
whatever
huh?
comes off on the pallet. So you set it up around the room, well, then they put numbers on it, and that tells the people, if you, X amount of people in your family, you get to have so many portions or whatever. Well, if you don't have a person there at every station, then they come up and, we had spinach the last time. Well, I'm with the majority of the people, I don't like spinach either, so I don't like that. Well, can I get 2 cereals? Well, if you take 2 cereals and don't take spinach,
Somebody else has
somebody
a
else
whole
doesn't
diet
get
of spinach.
cereal. So, it's one of those things that but you have to have someone there.
To monitor it.
Because, when someone comes by and they say, well, I don't like spinach, can I have? I don't, no. You don't like to
That's a
say
tough
no.
thing to have to say.
So, it's one of those things that we're still working on the bugs, trying to get enough volunteers, and the people that have been there, we've had kids from a church, and we had 4-H kids, they've had a blast. It helped, they've seen, so, I think the motion was, we're gonna do it in March, and then we'll reassess. Your ladies upstairs have done a fabulous job, they're writing up kind of a little guideline as to what we need for volunteers, and how many people it'll take to run it, and last time it was a skating rink down there, so we were just thankful that no one fell down, including me. But we got them, so we're making strides, and I think if we can get it to every month, then maybe tweak the hours somewhere else, then.
I have just been asked to serve in the statewide food bank, governing board, and there is a reason for that. We have been really pushing the food bank, and we've met with the executive director over a couple times actually now, to discuss some of those things that we need to change on that. So that, please, when you guys got feedback as to how to make that more effective in your county, we're doing the same with, there's 5 other counties that are in the red, that, like she had stated, in our service area, and we're trying to work with them to make sure.
What's the source of money for the Iowa Food Bank? Where do they get their food?
They get some money from the state, and then they also get from federal USDA monies as well, through the commodities program, and then also private donations. So keep us informed as whatever recommendations or changes you want, and then I'll make sure that gets also to them as well, to share that.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Jamie.
You betcha, you betcha.
Do you have anything else you want to add, or?
The only other thing that we did want to talk about, just briefly, and just mention to you, is the chore program. I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with that, and it's in the letter here. Did you all get a letter?
I passed it around.
Okay. One of the things that Elderbridge, that now runs that program throughout all the areas that we serve, is that they changed the federal match requirement, and we can no longer use some of the federal match that we did in our agency for them to meet that money that they brought in. The chore program, and it is one of the programs that's strictly for elderly, helps them to remove the snow and or mow the lawn or whatever to keep them in their home and keep their home accessible. We just encourage each of the counties, if you can, think about adding $1,000 for the match. That helps us to meet that match. The monies we get, they don't allow us to use that unless it's certain donations, and everything that we can use, we're using. So we encourage that if you can look at that. And if you ever want to see the impact that the chore program has on the elderly, and especially in your county, please let us know. That is one of the groups, part of the requirement for the money we get, is we ask the participants to write a letter on how it impacted them. And it's always amazing to me, the elderly is one group that does not have a problem expressing their like or dislike for something, and those letters are just glowing as the impact. So we always make sure that we try to keep them happy, because they have no problem letting you know. So anyway, and they really do appreciate that. So just, that's one of the other things we ask.
Alrighty, thank you very much for take your requests under consideration.
I guess we'll, in a couple weeks,
Yes.
we're back to Emmitsburg. Are you going to Emmitsburg this time?
For what?
Board meeting?
Board meeting next.
No, I'll be in Eagle Grove for that one.
No, you gotta go to Emmitsburg.
Oh, I wasn't No, but you'll be in.
We're gonna have, just take a short recess.
Yes,
Real short. Because we rescheduled it.
Yep, I got that. Yep, we're
Okay.
on.
All right, and then that's the same day,
15th.
yes, and that's the same day
Yes,
as the
we wanna
ministerial.
turn those on.
So I will be at the next.
Oh, turn the mics off.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
We're on.
Okay,
We're live. Michelle's up from Humboldt County Public Health.
But you got a check, you gotta go.
I don't have a check, I don't even know.
Thank you.
I don't give, I receive. Thanks. Okay, well, I just wanted to come up, meet with you guys, kind of go over, the service lines and programs that we are doing out at Public Health, and also kind of the budget, so you guys can have an idea of where we sit budget-wise, patient visit-wise, everything like that. So your first sheet there is just kind of our service lines. So it goes through, it breaks down what we might do, with all of our staff throughout every single day, bigger projects throughout the year, and just kind of some of the specialties that the girls have. And the second line, or the second page gives you fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 16 comparison. But then the third page is the first 6 months of fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 17, because I just think it's better to have the most current data that I can give you. And it breaks it down into, the different service lines. So if you look at the first 6 months, so if you look at what we're doing right now in fiscal year 17, you'll see the homemaker, the personal care, the nursing visits. EHS stands for Early Head Start, and so those are visits that our family support workers do with 0 to 3-year-olds, and that's a contract that we have with Early Head Start, and that allows us to serve 6 families at one time. We cannot go over that. We can go under, but we don't. We fill the slot. Our HOPES program is through our Building Families Board that Bruce gets to sit on, and that again is with our family support workers with our 0 to 3-year-olds. And then we have postpartum visits, health promotion visits, and those are nursing visits that we do under the Elderbridge contract that we have. We have interpreter visits, and that number only lists out the interpreter visits that Lizbeth does through our HOPES program. She does a lot of other services in our office. She helps interpret for presumptive Title 19s. She does immunizations, and then any of the walk-ins we have with our Hispanic population that we serve. She interprets all of that for us, but those aren't listed in the numbers.
That interpreter on 15 and 16 looked like it was really down.
It was really down, and I'll be honest with you, when I ran some of these numbers, I was kind of shocked at some of these. And so when I looked at because again, it's just only our HOPES visits, they were up by 11, but she was down by 151. And when she came on board, we were able to utilize her a lot, but then our numbers with our Hispanic population kind of dropped, and we saw that. And so we really looked at how do we outreach to these families that have the young people, how do we better serve them, and so that's what we're looking at now. And we probably have one of the highest numbers of Hispanic families on our HOPES program right now that we've ever had. So it's gone back up again. WIC, and then MCH is Maternal Child Health. That's the program we run together once a month here in Humboldt County. And that is for 0 to 5-year-olds. Maternal Child Health is just for prenatal, and it's usually for first-time moms, or maybe there's some social issues that the mom might need some help with. So we put them in Maternal Child Health because in addition to all the normal WIC services they get, they also get to see a social worker while they're down at the WIC clinic to kind of help weed out some of those referrals and needs that they might have. We have our immunizations, we have our flu vaccinations, which we've seen a little bit of a decrease over the years, which we knew we were going to because you can get a flu shot anywhere you go nowadays. So we knew that would decrease, but
you know, as of today, we are still giving flu shots in our office at this time, and so it kind of has a little bit of a trickle effect. We do blood pressure clinics over in Springville, independent living, which has kind of stopped for a period of time because we were having some timing issues on when we could get to the residents. But now we're starting that back up, so that's good. And then we do them in our office as well. Corporate health, which I'm going to talk about here in just a few minutes, and then our school immunization audits. And so this kind of breaks down the numbers for you guys throughout those programs that we run. And then the final page is just the breakdown of the financials. So you'll see like what we received in fiscal year 16 and what we received in 17 for our grant dollars. All of those top ones from local public health down to EMS, and actually I guess CCT right under that, those are all grant dollars. So those we apply for every year, and then sometimes it's a competitive bid and sometimes it's not. Typically speaking, we tend to use every single last dollar that hits our office. Through every single one of those grants. Usually by end of fiscal year, June 30th, we are out of funding in pretty much all of those categories. Like our Elder Bridge, we are out of all homemaker service money already, and we'll be out of personal care money this month, and health promotion will likely be out in March or April. So then we roll people over into that local public health grant, and so then that eats up a large portion of that towards the end of the fiscal year. So as you can see, bottom dollar, we're just a little bit less this year than what we received last year with all of our revenue there. Still seeing roughly about the same number of clients that we have in 16 and 17. We have some new staff on board with us at Public Health. We have a new office manager, Christine Trineri, and she has a financial education, so nobody is happier but me that she is with us to help with the budget and figuring out dollars and how do we make sure every visit we're doing is going into the right pot of money, and so we are receiving money the correct in all the correct funding sources that we have. We also have a new nurse that we hired within the last year, and that's Cheryl Johnson, and she was hired specifically to kind of head up our health promotion visit through, it used to be called CCT grant funding, and now it's called C3. They keep changing the name on us, so we just roll with the flow of whatever. But in that program, what we do is every single patient that is discharged from the inpatient floor at Humboldt County Memorial Hospital, she follows up with them. So she first makes that initial phone call, and then she tries to make the visit in the home to go over their discharge instructions with them, their medication list, just to truly try to help so there is not a readmission for them, that they, once they're home, they can stay home and they're safe and all their questions are answered.
That's one of the positives, I think. You hear a lot about people falling down the cracks. I don't think other hospitals do that.
Yeah, and it's kind of a newer program for us, and what we have seen since we've been doing it is she is getting a lot more of our chronic patients, people who maybe come to the ER frequently because they've, mistook their medication so they didn't understand something, or maybe it's even just a referral to try to help them with services like we talked, we heard UDMO talk about, or if it's mental health or substance abuse. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that, and so trying to get people in the right places and the right services that they need, and some of them just refer right on back into maybe our homemaker services or, a program that way, or our HOPES program or something that we can help them with. I said I wanted to talk a little bit about corporate health. We have hired, Humboldt County Memorial Hospital has hired a new nurse practitioner, Morgan Olson, who's going to be starting with us here in just a couple weeks. And she is going to help us with our corporate health program. So through corporate health, Julie Whitard is our nurse that kind of heads that program up. And so our goal is to work with every single business within Humboldt County to be able to provide all of their corporate health, wellness, pre-employment, workman's comp issues, just to keep that local and keep that here. We've offered this program for years on a very low level. So if a business wants this program, we would maybe be able to give them this. And so now our goal is that each business Julie and Morgan, and Dr. Rizika will help us go out and meet with those local businesses, figure out what their specific needs are, and then bring them into our facility and provide all of that with our therapy departments, our radiology department, our laboratory departments, I mean, anything, working together as a whole team to be able to provide our local businesses the services they need right here in Humboldt County.
If you have somebody on the workforce that's injured, you work with them as far as work comp and whether they can go back to work or can't go back to work, or whether they're pulling your leg or not pulling your leg,
Yes.
that kind of thing?
Yes, yes. And right now, Dr. Ezeka takes care of a lot of that for us, and he will work hand in hand with Morgan to kind of build that program. So like I said, again, we can serve them right here in our facility instead of sending them to an outer town.
Okay.
Questions for me?
So this is all from the public health services?
Yes.
So, means you're doing more with the corporate health, which sounds like a really good idea.
Yes.
Does that mean you're getting enough funding for that?
Our hope is that will generate dollars. That is paid for privately by the businesses. So that will generate more dollars in our corporate health revenue line.
Okay.
So that's something that's strictly with the businesses, and we've been working on putting together like package deals or bundled deals depending on which services they need. Maybe they need, A through F, maybe they only need A and B. So
Okay.
we're putting together some bundled service costs for everybody.
Okay, so that, yes, I didn't mean that you would incur more expense by expanding that offering, so.
We will incur more expense, but hopefully the
Yeah, we get
revenue will.
paid back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
very good.
That's our goal.
One of the bargains we have with this program, we don't have to have a separate county nurse. I mean, we get a nurse through this program. Some counties have to go out and hire personnel and pay the benefits. We got a pretty good deal here.
Yeah,
Keep-
and we have 12 girls on staff right now. We have 4 nurses, and Meg Thompson is retiring next month, and we have filled her position with Jolene Cernette, who will be starting with us here in a couple weeks. And so we'll have 4 nurses, 2 family support workers, 3 home care aides, 1 interpreter, the office coordinator, and myself.
What's this with West Fork Services?
No, that we had
Yeah.
a contract with West Fork Services that we would provide nursing supervision within one of their group homes.
Right.
I've
That's what
spoken
I-
with LifeWorks to see if that is a contract that we could continue with them. Initially, when it started, they had a couple consumers that they just needed extra care
Yeah.
and nurses coming in and helping their staff determine, how do we prevent skin breakdown, how do, what's the
Sure.
correct treatments they might need. LifeWorks at this point in time has said they do not feel the need for that. They don't have the clientele that needs that at this point in time, but our plan is to stay in contact with them, and if some consumers come up that would need some nursing
Changes,
services.
then you'd sign
yes,
with them.
then we'll sign
Okay.
a contract with LifeWorks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
All righty, guys, it's 10:30. I think we've gone through most everything here on the list. Do we have any items for discussion? Peggy, got anything else for us?
No, it's fine.
I have a question I wanna toss out to you guys. After our work session or meeting we had at Oxbow the other day, we had a petition for this project on 4 egg wells. Do you think we should mention that to a different engineer to get a different thought process into it? I will contact them and see if they will do that at no charge, because, if they're interested, they might have a better idea, and maybe the landowners will like that better.
Has Rick already done preliminaries on that?
He has done that, paid for by the state. He
So
is,
those numbers that
that he was given this from the studies
had
that,
were the studies that Rick done on the preliminaries.
back in the 90s and stuff. I'll talk with ISG and see if they are interested to throw their 2 cents in at no cost.
Wasn't there also one up in, Spencer?
Another one?
Another, I thought we used one time up in Spencer where there was another, engineering group up there.
I don't know who that'd be.
Rick, do you have knowledge of this other engineering firm?
Well, they're doing a project northeast of town here for us.
Doing the one out by, Virgil
Williams.
Okay.
Mount Go, they are the Alabama.
Well, their main office is Mankato.
Mankato, but they're out of.
So how much, previous experience does the county have with them?
Just this one project.
This is the one they're doing right now?
Their company has done a lot of work with the city. They probably do a majority of the city's work.
Okay.
You
have a
went
little-
to County meeting once, they did all BV's work, BV County's work.
Didn't they present down at, Fort Dodge this year?
Yes, they're one of the people doing some presenting down there.
What's the name of the company?
INS.
INS?
INS, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, I guess,
I mean, I'll just have a conversation and tell them this is what we're looking at, and if they're interested,
A previous experience, they charge a little more than Rick, I think.
they do.
but we also, at what point is Rick's plate getting so full?
That's my concerns are. And when a project gets drug out, it gets more expensive.
Bingo.
So,
Do you have any engineering experience, Peggy? You're
No.
always quick.
Mm-mm.
That's okay, Peggy.
Never had any.
You know, that's okay.
Rick, you had another idea you mentioned to me, is it feasible, are we thinking about maybe being able to levy twice a year? Is that a
yes,
possibility?
yeah. I mean, by law, we can,
We are
and,
going to.
and currently we don't. But I think we need to. And I haven't had a chance to talk with Jana yet because she's been out with,
Funeral leave and now.
funeral, now an
Mom's
illness,
in bed,
or mother-in-law.
Firefighted her mother-in-law yesterday.
Yeah, for health issues.
Yeah, some weird deal.
We need to work with the staff on that to make sure.
Yes, I wanna
Yeah,
visit with
you
her
got that
before I make
one.
that decision.
Getting back to that drainage well thing, and the ones, I know which ones you're talking about for
Mhm.
what we've been going through. Is that about the only one that, refresh my memory without dragging all that stuff out, more cut and dried project?
That one,
Potentially,
yeah, that one's
it's a little I mean, in the grand scheme of the other one, it's a little
Simpler.
easier to address.
yeah. And there's a couple up north of Humboldt, north and west
That
of
are-
Humboldt,
that
that
are a little more,
are doable.
Doable.
According to
Yeah, that's a good-
Mike
you
Borland,
know-
it's money well spent, put it that way. You
Right.
can get more bang for your buck.
right, that aren't the mitigated wetlands ones.
Mhm.
So, I think that's good, and then no one has got any preliminary figures on any of the other couple closure ones, right? I mean, the one you're talking about, back in the day, they did some preliminary,
Yeah, back in the 90s.
and you're talking about that one, what about the other, more?
I think all that work was done in the late
They have been
90s.
looked at as well? Okay, but.
Yeah, the state hired Westergaard to do that study back in the late 90s.
That's where that came from, and that's why
Yes,
the stuff.
and that's why Rick was at that meeting the other day, 'cause he
Right.
had done the study.
Right, yeah, and he talked to us about it, but I think moving forward, that would be fair. And I think that the other thing I wanna mention, which we've kinda talked about through this whole ag drainage well, is just getting some of those moving forward.
Mhm.
The doable, whatever name you wanna put on it or term you wanna use.
Yeah.
I think,
Well, the other side of that coin is those four down there at the bottom that were gonna be so expensive. That study was done in the 90s, maybe, I don't know, how do we approach that? Could things have changed? I mean, I know that top hasn't changed as far as being able to dig.
But
here.
practices have changed.
Yeah, maybe there's something else, and that's why I
Equipment has
wondered if
changed.
we approached the DNR and said, hey, what are our options with this cluster of, what is there, 4 or 5 in that area? 'Cause we're pretty much, our hands are tied, it's either wetland,
Yeah,
leave it,
or an expensive
or a
outlet.
big dig.
or do we, in the whole process of this, do we have, like Bruce said, it's been a while ago, do we have the, whatever engineering firm re-evaluate that big project?
I think that'd be up to the state to
Yeah, 'cause
fund
they're
that.
gonna have to,
They're the ones who are gonna give us the money or
Reason
not.
why-
Because see, just double check the figures, I don't,
Yeah.
however you wanna say it, but I mean, I know we've had some discussion, because we're having discussion on this whole ag drainage well business, you know, is that still a viable option? I mean, that's still out on the table on those
Yeah,
tough ones.
but the state budget is extremely tight, so I get nervous that they're gonna fund things.
Well, that's the whole thing, I don't think that unless they have a magic wand that they're gonna wave and all of a sudden they're not gonna wanna do another study on something that they've got
Yeah,
material in their folder that says it's gonna be expensive, but
Feasible someplace.
yeah, so, okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Dave,
Second?
second by Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
We are